these orders will have to be issued no matter what, no?
So basically, what what we're saying is Jesus Codera has been engaging in evasive tactics by basically saying, ay wala
Well,
na, recess na eh, sorry na. May bakasyon, ano na ako, mag microblading na ako. Medyo, mukhang nakabook na yung mga ano nila eh. Yung mga sessions
well,
natin, Vicky Bello times.
I don't know their personal schedules, but they can do things now without convening actually, because as a legislative body, this is not legislative work, no?
Right.
And all these orders can be they can authorize the Senate President to give all these orders anyway, to comment, to answer, to file a reply. That's all in the ordinary course of
Right.
of the trial, no?
Again, Justice Carpenter, I'm so thankful for you explaining that. Because, again, as I said, for me, the ongoing debate was just so, parang completely two opposite interpretation. I think your interpretation seems the most reasonable. And that the preliminary steps have to be done. Speaking of mechanics-wise, can the Senate President be compelled by the Congress or even by Malacanang to get the ball rolling here, both politically and, of course, legally speaking? Is there a way to compel Cheese to get rescheduled yung kanyang microblading?
Well, the House cannot compel, of course, the Senate or the Senate President. The President Bongbong cannot also, because he has really no role in the impeachment. It's the sole power is with the Senate.
Not also Supreme Court? Can't Supreme Court say anything about it?
Well, the Supreme Court can intervene. It has intervened in the case of
Right.
Chief Justice Duterte, Chief Justice Davide, but only if there is a violation of the Constitution.
Right.
So this forthwith could be a violation of the Constitution
Exactly.
if the Constitution says forthwith, but you won't act until 5 months. I think that's not reasonable anymore.
Interesting.
So they have to be creative. What they don't want is to convene because, as a trial court, because they are campaigning. 7 of the 12 are re-electionists. So, and maybe Cheese doesn't want to incur their ire because they really have to campaign. So they can do all these preliminaries. Anyway, they have to go through this anyway. So at least things will be moving already.
That's interesting. Justice, sa pagkaalam ko, yung ating saligang batas ay hindi rin klaro na yung Senate President ay automatically mag-replace if ever ma-impeach, matanggal, kumbaga, yung Vice Presidente, right? Last time I checked, parang there's still a chance that the Speaker could be not. Because
Yes,
the reason I'm saying
in
that
the
is because
case of,
hindi ba is important for Cheese to also have, parang to say, oy, since I could be a beneficiary of this, it's important that I project, right, least interest, or at least I have to project that I'm not over interested in this process, right? I'm just thinking along from those lines.
Well, it's not automatic because if there's a vacancy in the vice presidency, the president will choose from any senator or any members of the House,
Right.
and his choice will be ratified by vote by the House and the Senate voting separately. A majority of all
Majority,
the members,
50% plus
voting
1.
separately.
50% plus 1 dapat both
Yeah.
houses.
Yes.
So hindi na pwede si Martin Romualdez. I doubt Martin will get the 50% plus 1 in the Senate. So that would be an interesting situation, right? No, I mean, syempre, you have to think about all of those things. Kasi if you're Cheese, di ba?
Yes.
The least you want to be seen as is parang, uy, masyado kang atat, di ba? Kasi baka pwede ako maging next vice president. At the same time, you can also accuse Cheese of playing safe. Baka gusto niya mag-vice presidente, pero 2028 pa. So I don't want to piss off the DDS, right? So it's an interesting, different interpretation. We can look at it. So I'm just trying to be fair to Cheese, right? In terms of what are different angles or reasons for him really, trying to sleep on this issue or let it stay on ice. Now, just again for the education of people here, Dahil sobrang na-appreciate ko yung explanation mo kanina eh. Parang there's a middle way of, like you can just lay down the foundation and then let's do the trial later on with the term forthwith. Yung isa pang gusto natin maintindihan dito is justice is ano yung pagkakaiba ng isang normal na court proceeding kung saan beyond reasonable doubt and pretty much clear yung procedures of how justice is gonna be delivered vis-a-vis an impeachment proceeding whereby ang daming prerogative yung mga senadors in terms of determining yung mga procedures and that the threshold is not necessarily the same, right? I mean, should it be beyond reasonable doubt in the same way that it is in a normal court? What are the differences, Justice, if ever? And what is the precedence?
Well,
Yeah.
in a criminal case, the quantum of evidence required is beyond reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
Guilt
So-
is proved beyond reasonable doubt.
Very high threshold.
For civil cases, the quantum of evidence is substantial evidence. No?
Ah.
But there's something in between which has been applied. It must be clear and convincing evidence. That's between
Right. Civil and
beyond
criminal.
reasonable doubt and substantial.
Interesting. Puro middle tayo ngayon. Puro
And
mga
then,
middle, right? Yeah. Puro mga mid-range tayo. So,
then,
that's an important collect. Thank you, Justice. Yeah.
And then, but in the case of impeachment, there's no case saying that this is the quantum of evidence. They only say it's a political issue.
Right.
It's a political body. In effect, so it's the decision of the required majority, the qualified majority, 2/3. If they think that the accused is guilty, then they can pronounce him guilty.
Yeah.
There is no threshold that has been established because
Right.
courts have been reluctant to establish a threshold because it's a political exercise.
Yeah.
So it's very unique because there's no quantum of evidence that has been established as necessary to convict somebody who's being impeached. So it's really up to the required majority, the 2/3 vote.
What about the precedence of the Justice Corona? Is it an apple and oranges cases? Because that was a magistrate's case versus here an elected official. Parang ang thin yung precedence, diba? Or can we draw from the US cases? Kasi our jurisprudential diba, philosophy is very much also influenced by US. How do you think the prosecution team will approach this? Let's say you're Luistro, you're the prosecution team. How are you going to approach this from a jurisprudential point of view and precedence point of view, Justice?
Well, of course, from the point of view of the prosecutor, the lower the threshold, the better for them. It's easier for them. So they would say that as shown in past impeachments, there was no threshold required. It's up to the 2/3 vote because this is a political exercise. So I think that will hold. They will do the same because there's no decision of the Supreme Court saying otherwise. So I think that will hold. It's up to the 2/3 to decide.
So basically, it's political. It's a numbers game. Even it's basically a numbers game. That's what we're saying, Justice, right?
Well,
I mean,
at bottom, that is a numbers
to
game.
be
But
very cynical about it. Yeah.
yeah, but they have to see to it that the decision will also be acceptable to the people. I mean, if it's shown clearly that the accused is innocent and they convict, there will be a backlash from the people, a political backlash again.
Yes.
It's really a political exercise.
Now, I want to be fair, Justice. You know me. I'm a man of justice, just like you. Even though hindi ako naging justice. Or, if ikaw yung team ni Sara, who would you want to be your defense team or yung lead defense counsel? Alam mo na saan papunta yung question, Justice Carvio. Of course, it raises a logistical question too. Is it gonna be Salvador, faded pants, Hello Kitty, meron na siya mga pants na may mga Hello Kitty na Panelo with the Chanel or you want it to be Harry
hanggang ngayon may manhunt pa rin, no? Harry Roque. You think Harry Roque Justice can make it back in time if ever June na magsimula tournament? Like that would be like who will be the lead counsel or and
Well,
defense
who
team?
knows? Sarah might choose Harry, and that gives
Oh,
Harry a reason to come back.
will he have an immunity or something from all of the sabagay, it will be a new Congress na, di ba? So mag-imutan court na yung Quadcom hearing and all, di ba? Oh, wait, may chance talaga
Well,
si Harry, no?
the yes, it's a new Congress, so all those subpoena issued by the House would have expired. So he can come back after.
Imutan court na.
He can come back in time for the trial in the 20th Congress.
Talaga, advance tayo mag-isip, di ba, Justice? We're looking at every possible, and I was like, so would it be Panelo? And you would rather have Harry, di ba? I mean, as a legal mind, Justice, who do you trust more to be your defense team? Harry Roque or Panelo?
Well, I was saying Harry so that Harry can come back.
Yeah. Trap pala yung trapman pala yung gagawin mo, Justice. Hindi ka na Justice pala. PNP chief ka na pala, Justice Garbio. Okay, alright. That's good, that's good. Actually, parang yun din ang ginagawa ko, ini-entrap ko na. Pero parang masakit naman kay Panelo. But what's her name? Sara said her father is willing to help. You think Digong in any way could be helpful? Baka magmumura lang siya. Baka sasabi, diba kahapon sinabi niya na ang dami, parang masyadong crowded daw. Sabi niya, patayin na lang yung mga 15 na senators para may bakante na. I rather have Digong as the lead. Para he'll say something like that, you know.
Well, baka pag naging lead counsel siya, baka mauubos yung mga senador.
Literally.
Hindi lang 15.
Hindi lang 15 exactly. Baka yung next 24. So 15, may 9 pa mag-survive. So Robin Hood, Bongo, yun na lang sigurado eh. Oh my God, I mean, this is crazy. Imagine, Justice. I'm really excited actually to see this impeachment. I think there are going to be many interesting characters if ever this happens, no? In terms of the choosing of the prosecutor, how is that determined? Is it by the House leadership, Justice, in terms of who will be the prosecutor? Parang, of course, now Congressman Luistro's name came up. But how is that determined? Again, from a technical standpoint.
Well, it's determined by the House leadership who will be
Right.
the prosecutors. And I think they'll probably choose Congresswoman Luistro to be the lead prosecutor. Well, I think she's well qualified for that.
Right. But I mean, what if Chel Jokno and Leila De Lima win? Hindi ba more sensible Leila De Lima takes over or something like that as a former Justice Secretary? I mean, with all due respect to Luistro's legal credentials, right? I know it's a political thing, but do you think it's worth for Haydarian to go on Twitter and once nanalo sila Chel and all, gawin nyo ng chief prosecutor. I mean, Leila De Lima as chief prosecutor would be interesting, is it? It would be quite like Leila versus Harry. Oh my goodness, that would be fun. I mean,
Well,
blockbuster
the
yan.
House prosecutors are allowed to engage the services of private prosecutors.
Right.
And there will be private prosecutors, I understand.
So even if hindi manalo, God forbid, yung ibang magaling na kandidato, they can still be involved just in case, no? And then in terms of expenditures, 'di ba? Dun sa what is the difference in terms of kunyari, 'di ba, sa normal courts kung nanalo ka, you're also entitled to be reimbursed, right? For the legal fees or something in certain cases. What if in this case, kunyari, hindi mangyaring impeachment at ang laki ng gastos ng team ni Sara doon sa kanyang defense sa private group? Is she gonna be reimbursed? Or is she gonna be subsidized by taxpayers? Sorry, Justice, I'm being very particular about everything. Alam mo naman, mga Ilocano, tinitingnan namin yung mga gastos.
There will be no award of attorney's fees here or other forms of damages.
I'm just concerned for Harry kasi kawawa naman si Harry. But anyway, I don't want to say more, baka mapahamak tayo kay Harry. Baka mag-ano tayo, we'll bump into each other soon. No, but just as going back to this, okay, let's put aside the issue of impeachment. As we see, base daw sa mga internal surveys, hindi pa lumalabas ito, ang nakikita dito is hindi lang 41% ay pabor dun sa impeachment ni Sara. Mukhang majority na ay pabor at least sa pagsimula ng trial. So ibig sabihin, public opinion is shifting in certain direction. So time is not necessarily on Sara's side. Of course, many factors. But interestingly, Justice Carpio, pro-Sara candidates are doing better. So in a sense, parang nag-double movement, right? As the fear that Sara is getting more vulnerable increases because there's more popular support, yung base ng mga Duterte ay nagko-consolidate na. So for instance, Bato's numbers slightly improved in the latest surveys. Pababa siya last year eh. Ngayon medyo competitive na ulit si Bato. Bongo is very strong at number 2, right? Last year I remember there was a time barely top 5 pa siya. Amy Marcos, who is, sabi nga ni Ronald Llamas, hindi ko alam saan siya pupulutin kasi team admin ba siya? Duterte ba siya? Sabi niya, she will fight tooth and nail against impeachment. Amy's not doing too bad too. Share numbers actually jumped in the latest pulsation survey. What is your...
Number 5 or 6.
5 or 6, very high. This is the highest I've seen her doing since, I don't know, basically ever, right? Since the surveys for... So what do you think is happening here? Do you think nagpa-panic mode na kaya nagsasolidify yung pro-Duterte base?
Well, I think this is the effect of the 2025 General Appropriations Act.
There we
Because,
go.
yes, I think people now, in fact, they're saying, why go after Sara? She's being charged of pocketing 125 million only, while in the case of the budget, you're talking of hundreds of billions of pesos. So I think it's starting to bite, no? And I think it will only get worse in the coming days. So that explains everything why they've gone up.
So
But
backlash
of course,
ito.
the people are actually not still think that Sara should be held accountable. But they're saying it does not justify what the administration is doing with the budget. So this is they're punishing the administration for this. So it's really the budget that's biting them now.
Right.
And that's why I'm saying they have to address this as soon as possible.
You mean President
Like-
BBM has to address this?
Yeah, BBM has to call for a special session to restore the budget of PhilHealth, DepEd, the 4Ps and the AFP modernization. Unless he does that, then this will get worse. Because the people see that the hundreds of billions of pesos are being wasted.
But
So
yeah.
the 125 million that of confidential fund that is used against Sara pales in comparison.
Okay, Justice, and I think this is where we have had slight tactical communication, I won't say differences, but perhaps divergence. My concern kasi, Justice, was, as you correctly pointed out, the enrolled version that BBM signed didn't have yung mga bahid na duda dun sa mga bycam, mambo-jumbos na sinasabi ng mga Team DDS. But at the same time, sa aking palagay, yung pinaka-damaging sa administration at kay BBM at yung pinaka-tumulong kila Sara was yung semantics na worst budget ever. Was that ever a accurate and I would even say responsible way to approach this, to call this the worst budget ever? Because that was exactly what the Dutertes were excited to ride on. This idea that pitsugin lang yung kay Sara, etong Marcos talagang pinaka-garapalan na corrupt na ganyan. I'm not against criticizing the budget. I'm just saying, was it responsible? Was it even accurate to say that was the worst budget ever at kasalanan lahat ito ni BBM? I just felt that was a bit too much, to be honest, Justice. And I think that's where we have had some differences, to be honest, between...
Yeah.
I mean, we're all on the same team. It's just that I think, feeling ko lang, masyadong ginus out ng mga Duterte campion. And you correctly pointed out, that may explain why the pro-Sara team is doing well suddenly now in the surveys.
Well, it's because this is probably the biggest congressional insertion ever made in the budget. They really bloated the budget of DPWH, and we all know what that means. And they also bloated, they doubled the budget of the House. and they took away the budget of PhilHealth, PDIC, so they can put it in DPWH, put it in their own the house budget. They took away the four-piece by about 50 billion and put it in ACAP. So I do not remember anything like this before. The sheer magnitude of what they've done, and the president did not even veto a single centavo of the congressional insertion. What he vetoed was his own recommendation under the National Expenditure Program. So, and I think it's starting to be understood by the people, and this is the backlash now. But there's still time to recover.
When you say there's still time, I mean, nagsimula ng elections, di ba? So how is this gonna be fixed? Again,
but
procedurally
he can
speaking.
call a
Sorry about
special
that.
session.
Aha,
He
special
can call a
session.
special session
Right.
to just correct it. And I think it's imperative that he calls a special session to correct this, because this will get worse. Because the opposition, the Duterte group, will pound on this, and everything will be forgotten. Because this is so, what they've done in the present budget is so horrible. Eh, Matatabunan lahat yung kasalanan ni Duterte.
Can you explain to us, Justice, how can that special session take place? I mean, can you walk us through that? Is BBM gonna sit
Well,
down there and tell his friends,
because-
oh guys, curb your enthusiasm and greed. I think sumobra na kayo. We're all paying a price here. Bugsarado tayo. Ayusin natin yan. So, ano mga kailangan nilang ayusin dyan? I mean, I'm spelling this out, Justice, right? Let's spell it out. I mean,
Yeah.
what should BBM, if BBM is listening to us
Because-
right now, what should he do?
And under the Constitution, it says the president can call a special session at any time. So at any time, he can call it now, no? And he'll just say, okay, just one thing, correct this following: restore the budget of PhilHealth, restore the budget of PDIC, restore the budget of DepEd, restore the budget of the four-piece, and also the AFP. Then you take away the wind from the
wings, yeah.
the attack.
Yeah.
I mean, what will the Duterte group do? Their main argument is no longer feasible. Their main attack against Bongbong administration has been resolved. Their main objection.
Okay, the way I look at it, Justice, is the Dutertes are looking for any sign whereby Marcos shows any kind of admission of gross negligence or even worse, right? What do you think from a strategic communication point could be the way? Kasi, di ba, dapat I mean, he had the chance to veto it last year and may mga adjustments daw. So for him to suddenly come again and say, we need to do another session, doesn't that make him look actually weak and actually admitting? Parang, hindi ba dapat mas maganda sa kanya, ano? Hindi siya magpapahuli ng buhay. Alam mo naman yung ganun na mindset, di ba? Na parang, ang style lang Duterte is, damn if you do, damn if you don't, so might as well just, panindigan mo na yan. I'm thinking kasi siguro ganun din yung thinking ng iba na panindigan ni BBM yan kasi any even, I would say, an iota of admission that maybe something is seriously wrong will be weaponized by DDS anyway. So how can Marcos work around this, Justice? I agree with you on a normative level. I'm looking at it from a practical, strategic communication point of view.
Well, Bongbong, BBM already admitted that the budget now is suboptimal. He can take off from that. Well, he will say it's suboptimal. I want it to be optimal. Then he calls for a special session, because then he can explain that. I listen to people. I listen to your complaints. That's why I'm asking Congress to hold this special session. And I'm sure if he returns the allocation of PhilHealth, people will be jumping with joy.
So what is stopping him then, Justice? Again, should he? Kasi, di ba, I mean, if the numbers they show that medyo nabubugbog kayo dito, medyo you're having vulnerability, then logically, BBM, di ba, we're already giving him the, like, eto na, sir, baka naman, di ba? I'm just trying to figure out, ano yung cost-benefit analysis nila dito eh. Is he scared of alienating certain congressional allies? Does he lack what it takes to do that corrective measure? Yun nga, inisip ko nga eh. Or is he waiting for even more dramatic drops in surveys for him to say something? Because if you're BBM, you're also gonna look at some of the surveys and say, well, tumataas naman ang support for impeachment. It's not like Sara's approvals are going up. And at the end of the day, parang 7, 8 out of the 12, magic 12 are admin anyway, so we're not doing too bad. And last thing I want to mention, and here yung attack ni BBM, finally, like all-out attack na si BBM, talking about Farmali, talking about COVID-19 mismanagement, talking about West Philippine Sea, Pogo. He's used very strong language when he was there in our ancestral homeland in the Ilocos region the other day. Hindi kaya bakang strategy ni BBM ngayon is wala nang atrasan, no admission, no retreat, all-out war, frontal attack. Hindi ba kaya yun na yung decision niya ngayon? Or are you saying that may not be enough? In fact, it could even backfire. Is that what you're saying, Justice?
Well, yeah, you're right. He's up to now, his probably calculation is he doesn't have to change the budget.
Yeah.
He will go on attack. But then the counter of the Duterte group will be the budget. And the focus will return to the budget. So it's a matter of he has to weigh if he can survive an attack on the budget. For me, the fact that, as you mentioned, Bato and Go are going up again, and IME also, that means the budget is the budget issue is biting them.
Interesting. So maybe we'll just wait for the next survey. If I'm BBM, hintayin ba natin ang content 2 weeks kung makalusot pa tayo dito, di ba? Okay, so that raises the ultimate question, which will be the last part of our discussion for today, because I know you need to rest also, Justice. Pasensya na. You had a long lecture from my understanding yesterday. Saan tayo in terms of mga people who believe in good governance? Yung team kabutihan, saan ba dapat ang team kabutihan ngayon? Kasi pag ang team kabutihan ay emphasize parati na worst budget ever, this is just gonna help the Duterte team. If team kabutihan naman doesn't say yung mga kababalagan ng BBM administration, then parang questionable din yan. Like, so much for being kabutihan and good governance. So ano po yung Goldilocks? What is the... Puro tayong middle point tayo today, di ba? All of our arguments in the middle. What is the perfect middle position for the genuine opposition before pag-usapan natin sa tingin nyo, sino ba itong mga genuine opposition candidates? I think you were talking about 7 at least moving forward.
Well, we're attacking both. We're questioning the budget. We're questioning Sara's expenditure of confidential funds. We're questioning the extrajudicial killings. We're equally attacking both. We want to hold both accountable for what they've done. Mm-hmm. That's exactly the position. That's why in the rally of January 31, it was an attack on both sides. No, it was not just against the budget. It was against also against Sara calling for the impeachment of Sara.
Bakit hindi kayo sumali dun sa umaga na lang? Kaya na naman ako, Justice. So talagang, ako yung talagang pasaway talaga. I'm gonna create war among all of us. Like, no, I'm just kidding. I completely get your point that, ang nakakatakot kasi, and I think this came out in my discussions with Chelo and Bicol is, dapat, ingat din ang opposition na hindi magpagamit sa administration. I completely agree with that fear that some of our friends have. But my fear is also cuts in the other direction. So obviously, it will depend on how we're reading the situation. But I have a fundamental argument here, or question rather, Justice. Is there a moral equivalency here in a sense that kung usapan ito ng billions, I can also talk about the billions of confidential fund of the Davao of the Dutertes throughout the decades. If you want to talk about billions, I can talk about Duterte's own COVID-19 budget with very questionable practices back in the day. We can talk about Farmali. But if there's one thing I can talk about Duterte that I cannot talk about BBM, at least so far, knock on the wood, is tens of thousands of dead people based on some questionable drug war. And in fairness to BBM, at least when it comes to China, hindi siya, I love China, China will protect me, make us a province of China. So, again, I'm all for not choosing between any of them, but a part of me feels that, again, I know it's beginning to sound like lesser evil argument, but it's more like, is there an equivalency, moral equivalency between the two, considering the Dutertes are accused of something even more serious than just corruption and confidential fund?
Well, for one, we have been supportive of BBM as far as the West Philippine Sea issue is concerned. I mean, I've openly said it's what he has done is music to my ears. I'm totally in support of his policy on the West Philippine Sea. But on the budget, I think we cannot escape from criticizing it because it's just too much.
It's just too much. Okay.
But
I think that's a good quote. Sorry, Justice. It's just too much. I think is a far better quote than this is the worst ever budget. Sorry, I just think that was exaggerated. But it's just too much for us to be quiet. I think it's absolutely correct. Sorry, Justice. Medyo passionate ako sa issue na yan kasi alam ko maraming galit sa akin. So, dinadamay kita. Sorry.
Well,
the
that's
greatest.
it. That's what we're doing.
It was just too much.
We just have to praise them when they do what
yeah.
is correct. But if they do what is wrong and they don't want to correct it, then we have really to expose them.
I'll have one more question, Justice, before we go really to the last part. Between Digong, because you dealt with you dealt with Digong. I remember back in the day, you even gave him a briefing on ONCLOS. I don't know how much he could process the need. So you met both Digong and you also met BBM, right? Base sa inyong experience, sorry, just I'm putting you on the spot, but I think you can see where I'm going. Between the two of them, whose feet we can keep closer to the fire? Meaning, who could be more amenable to good counsel or self-correction? Again, it's going back to my argument of, are they really the same political species here are we talking about? Or am I entrapping you like how you're entrapping Harry Roque?
I will answer that, but I'll just clarify. I offered to give a briefing to Digong, to Duterte. He said, okay, give a briefing, but to my cabinet. So that's what happened.
Sorry. But you met him in person, right? I mean, we met Digong in person.
Yeah, I met him in person.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah.
When I gave my briefing, the cabinet members were there, but not President Duterte. President Bongbong attended one of my lectures, the one that I gave in the Senate. So your question is,
who is more amenable to self-correction and who is more, essentially reformable, if I can put that term. Yeah.
Well, no doubt it will be, hands down, it will be BBM. Because remember, BBM during the campaign said, well, talo na tayo sa China. Wala na tayong magagawa. But right after the election, when he won, he made a complete turnaround. So somebody convinced him to make a 180-degree turn.
Okay, ito na, promise. Papunta tayo sa last part. I just wanted to clarify. May magtatanong, bakit din yung sinabi si Sara Duterte? Sabi ko, wag na, baka ma-zoom tayo ni Sara Duterte if we say something wrong about her. Justice, baka ano yun tayo ni Sara. No, but syempre, because the counter-argument be, why are you comparing the father to BBM? You should compare BBM to Sara. I was like, what is your read of Sara? Is Sara someone who could be reasonable and amenable to self-correction and doing the right thing, considering on West Philippine Sea?
Well, Sara has not said a word about the West Philippine Sea.
Ayan, yan ang problema natin. Blank.
So, but, well, but she's been greeting the Chinese in Mandarin.
So maybe she said things, it's just that you and I didn't understand it. I'll tell you what, Justice Scorpio, my Chinese friend also did not understand it. Like, wait, what language was that? It's like, someone explained to me, the way she spoke Mandarin was like speaking French and then pronouncing the whole thing. It's like, Bordeaux, right? You say Bordeaux. Or Rousseau, you say Rusiao, right? Like, ganun daw yung dating sa mga Chinese. Na parang, anong pinagsasabi nito? Hindi naman ito Mandarin. Tuloy ginawang Chowking. Nag-order daw sa Chowking. So, Justice Guard, to be fair, for all we know, Sara has said things except neither us nor our Mandarin-speaking friends understood her. So, I just need to check her script. So, yun lang. I'm just trying to be fair to Sara Duterte. Kasi sasabihin na namin nila, bakit purong lalaki lang pinag-usapan niya, BBM Digong? Bakit si Sara? Alam mo naman, Justice, marami mga galit daw sa amin kasi puro kami mga misogynist daw. Parang hello. Bawal daw mag-criticize kay Sara kasi misogynist daw pag si Sara. We can only say that Duterte is medyo pero pag Sara, daw yun, sexist daw yun. But anyway, Justice, wag mong patulan yan kasi problema namin ni Ronald yan at saka Christian Esguerra. Now, last point, Justice. It looks like it's Bam and Kiko have a good chance. Kiko already pasok sa SWS 12. And then sa Octa and Pulse Asia, they're right just out of the perimeter of competitiveness. So they're somewhere between 14, 15, 16. So a few percentage points here and there. Lenny Magic, as Lenny comes out in favor of Bam, could be helpful here and there. But obviously, it's not just Bam and Kiko, right? You said there were originally 8 and now 7 candidates that you believe are truly genuine opposition that you're willing to endorse. Can you name them one by one and why, Justice? Etong 7 na to. Kasi alam ko marami na magagalit bakit daw hindi sila na-mention. I won't say sino yung mga nagagalit sa mga podcast natin. Bakit di na kami niimbita? Bakit hindi kami nandiyan?
Well, we have Heidi Mendoza, and she's also going up in the ratings.
Right.
We have, of course, from the right, we have Ariel Kerubin.
Oh, so
Turn the foundation of the UN that all disputes between states must be settled by peaceful means without resort to force or use of force. And now Trump is saying, I will.
essentially Gaza without Palestinians. That's what he's saying,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So that's in violation of the UN Charter. I mean, that's even a crime against humanity, deporting an entire
ethnic
population.
cleansing. Yeah, it's ethnic cleansing. Last time I
Ethnic
checked.
cleansing.
Yeah.
So, that's why I said it's now an axis of evil. They have exactly the same frame of mind. And what is dangerous here is, how can we now tell President Z, do not seize the Spratlys because that's in violation of the UN Charter? And President Z will say, oh, this is what we've discussed with Donald Trump. We can do this because he's doing it also to Gaza.
And
That's the big
and
problem.
Greenland and Panama and like even
England and Panama,
even poor
and
Canadians.
Who knows what else?
Yeah, his mind might and eto na official na ICC Karim Khan facing sanctions. I think even his family members could face sanctions. South Africa facing sanctions for the ICJ case against Israel over the what I don't know how to put that, Justice. It's not surprising. At the same time, a part of me is parang naiinis sa ICC na ba't pa nila hinintay na manalo si Trump? Sana ginawa na nila lahat ng ginawa nila. Kasi ngayon, tuwan-tuwa yung mga DDS kay Trump. Because ICC is what is in the crosshairs of the world's most powerful country. I mean, so what does that mean? I mean, at the same time, a part of me is saying, wala namang paki si Trump kay Duterte. If ever ICC goes after Duterte, he'll say, okay, whatever. Like, this is really about Netanyahu and my friends there, right? So, what is your read on that? Ako kasi, to be honest, parang, bakit ang tinagal lang ng ICC? Dapat last year ginawa na nila kasi ang laki ng chance manalo si Trump nun eh. At we knew what Trump was gonna, he was gonna sanction Karim Khan. He was gonna go after them. Or do you think the Israeli-Gaza issue was just so, it just the bandwidth, naubos yung bandwidth ng ICC na they're not in a position to the Philippine things. Kasi pati Taliban na nga na naabutan pa ng ICC eh. Malapit na rin yung Myanmar. Parang what's going on here, Justice? Am I being too much? Am I expecting too much from ICC, or maybe it's not the end of the world?
Well, we've all been waiting for the warrant of arrest, but it looks like it's being postponed and postponed, no? Assuming that they will issue it. So that's it. With Trump now going after the ICC, the more they're embattled now, and the more they have to show that they can survive. They will not be distracted. But one thing is sure, the entire EU will be supporting the ICC because that's the creation of EU. So I don't think Trump can dismantle the ICC on his own
Right.
without the EU, and the EU will never dismantle the ICC. So Trump can give the prosecutors of the ICC a hard time, but that will be enough. That will not be enough to terminate the existence of ICC.
So we have last 2 minutes before we hit the 1 hour mark, Justice. Do you think it makes sense I call it strategic collective bargaining, meaning magsama-sama tayong lahat, us, the Europeans, maybe the Japanese and Australians and all of us, sabay-sabay natin sabihin sa US, no, you're not gonna just force your way through this. Donald Trump, you're no longer the emperor of the world, right? This is not America's world anymore. We will fight back and we'll hold the line if you're not willing to help. Get out. I mean, do you think that could be the way forward? That we could work with Europeans and some of the other democracies and say, bakit tayo na hostage to the whims of Trump or whoever has his ears, Elon Musk or whatever? Because, I mean, to be honest, I don't even think Trump knew about Greenland really until someone whispered something in his ear. So this guy is just going. I think there's a quote from him, right? He's just going with the punches. He literally used that term, right? He's just going with his punches. So hindi ba dapat tayo mga allies and democracies kind of stand together and draw the line?
Yeah, we should. There's a large segment of American society that is against the position of Trump, and we must send a message that they should talk also. Because what Trump is actually doing is helping Russia and China overturn the foundational principle of the UN,
Right.
that you cannot use force to settle a territorial dispute. And if Trump is on their side, how can we beat China? How can we stop China?
Yeah.
Because it's only the US that's stopping China. That's it. That's the problem. Trump doesn't understand that what he's doing in Gaza is helping China in the South China Sea, justifying China's action in the South China, justifying Russia's action in Ukraine.
I just have yeah. I want.
This will hurt the U.S. because next time when they ask the world for support to go against a country that's invading another country, everybody will say, but you were against
Yeah.
the principle of the UN.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, ako, my practical advice is just work with people who are sympathetic there. So, Secretary Manal just had a very good meeting with Marco Rubio on the sidelines of the Munich conference, and Marco Rubio very strongly supported the Philippines on the South China Sea issue. Parang for me, just work with them and then maybe play into their egos. So, for instance, one country that is very successful in playing to America's psyche, essentially the Trumpian psyche, is Poland, right? Poland now is the favorite European country because they have been showing very strong macho foreign policy. Foreign Minister Sikorski was here a few months ago, and we interviewed him on our show, and he said Philippines could be like the Poland of Asia in a good way, meaning, yeah, you're mid-size and all, but if you show to Trump na palaban ka and all, which we are doing in the West Philippine Sea, actually baka matuwa pa si Trump sa'yo. Do you think maybe that's our option B now, that basically we'll schmooze our way with Trump and be kind of like the Poland. Like, yeah. I mean, like, I know we're not superpowers and all, but we're also palaban. And the reason I want to mention is that because the president of Poland has a very good relationship with Trump. He was in the Trump Tower a few months ago. Nag-dinner daw sila, and in that dinner, he gave a dramatic account of na sobrang kawawa yung Poland. I mean, 3 times he disappeared from the map, di ba? And that apparently worked with Trump. So maybe we should also send over some people from Philippines to tell the dramatic case of no, diba, just it's like this is the reality of like how Machiavellian way of dealing with someone like Trump. Like we have to find a way to keep him keeping on our side basically, right? On the China
Yeah.
challenge. Even if we don't have
Well,
China's power and status and the leverages that superpowers have.
well, one thing that we can do, because it's also good for us, is to tell Trump we will comply with your call to NATO to spend 2% of GDP
Yeah.
on military defense. We will do that also. He will be happy. But I mean, we're not giving away anything because we really have to do that anyway.
Anyway, yeah.
And we should be preparing just in case Trump walks away from us.
I have another advice. Damihan natin yung mga Trump Towers sa Philippines. I think that always helps. One in Cebu, one in Davao, one in Baguio. I think everything will be fine. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Justice Carpio, for this really wide-ranging and interesting discussion. Thank you, Justice, for your extreme generosity of time. I know you've been exhausted, and I hope your Sabbath day tomorrow will be a restful one and a blessed one. And Justice, hope we can catch up again in person soon. I'm trying to arrange something, or baka disturbo na naman kami sa ni Ronald or someone else soon dahil marami tayong pag-usapan. Justice, of course, people, I think should read really the book, no, The Internationalists. No, that's a fantastic book about how the post-World War
Yeah.
order of that might is not right.
And
Yeah,
and we need that now because you have China and Russia trying to overturn the world order, and Trump has joined them.
yeah. Trump. Yeah.
We need more internationalists.
We who are patriotic at the same time. That's not mutually
Yeah.
exclusive. You can be an internationalist patriotic just like you, diba? Using international law for our national interest. Salamat, Justice, my favorite
Okay.
internationalist in Manila. Talk to you soon po. God bless. Have a lovely weekend.
Okay, Richard, thank you.
Salamat,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Oops, sorry. Thank you so much, guys. Maraming salamat for again listening to another fantastic discussion. Sorry for some technical issues kanina, but I hope na appreciate nyo yung explanation ni Justice Carpenter when it comes to the mechanics of impeachment, the rules, the threshold, the quantum, I think was the term he used. That's interesting. The scenarios, and then of course what I also found interesting with Justice Carpenter is how can we balance this. Yes, we don't choose Marcos, we don't choose Duterte, we're not kadiliman or kasamaan, but nevertheless, let's not lose sight of the big picture. So I think on that level, more or less on the same page kami ni Justice Carpio. But I really love how he put it. This is just too much to ignore, right? I think way better yan than worst budget ever, yung mga ganyan. But at least, diba, napunta naman tayo kay Trump eventually. So yung mga MAGA friends natin, I hope natuwa kayo sa discussion today. Basta ako practical na ako. The way forward is to schmooze it while building out our own capabilities and all, because you never know. My goodness, you never know with Donald Trump. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed this latest discussion we had with another OG. Ito naman, OG ng constitutional law, OG ng West Philippine Sea, Justice Carpio. Tuloy-tuloy sana yung pagsuporta niya sa atin sa iba't ibang plataforma, sa Spotify, Deep Dive with Richard Hidarian, dito sa Facebook naman, sa Richard Foronda Hidarian. Of course, proud tayo sa Ilocano Foronda side natin. And obviously, of course, guys, dito sa YouTube, Richard Hidarian Vlogs. Libre lang mag-subscribe, libre lang mag-follow. And by the way, sa YouTube, nag-open na po tayo ng membership because we're looking at doing more like high-level productions na exclusive lang for members. So if you want to support more exclusive lecture type discussion, I want to do like lecture type Please sign up as member and subscribe dyan sa YouTube, among others. And also may subscription din tayo dito sa Facebook. Your support is very, very important to us. That's your best Valentine's gift to us. Supporting yung ginagawa natin dito, this little movement we have. As I said, you can always criticize us for many things. Maybe hindi ka pro-Lakers, maybe ayaw mo ng kulay ube, whatever. But I hope one thing that you appreciate is that we try to bring to you the most intellectually engaging discussion we can have in this country and with the leading thinkers in this country, whether it was Professor Bello kahapon, whether it's Justice Carpio today, people from different sides of the political spectrum. We're bringing them all to this little podcast we have here because, in my opinion, these kinds of high-grade discussions should not be confined doon lang sa mga universidad, sa mga elite institutions, or mga little talking shop circles. I think every single Filipino deserves to hear these kinds of discussions. And to my best ability, I try to combine a bit of humor, a little bit of bardagulan, but also some fair back and forth, including with the OGs in the business. Maraming salamat, and please, next week naman, pagkausapin naman natin si Heidi Mendoza, among other interesting candidates in these elections. As I said, we're here to get the message across. We are here to make sure that good governance, transparency, ang mananalo. I know many people feel depressed with a lot of things, a lot of reason to be depressed. Even si Ben Tulfo ay nagreklamo na bakit grabe yung dynasty law hindi pa inayos. But in fairness, there are still good people who are trying their luck here. So, who knows? Anything is possible. Base sa Octa survey, last Octa survey I saw in fourth quarter of last year, 15% lang sa ating mga kababayan ay firmly pro-Duterte, quote-unquote, DDS. So, if only 15%, 1/5, that's a very small minority, that means the good candidates actually have a huge room for improvement and huge chance to win, because all you need to win to make it to the Senate is sometimes just as low as 35 to 40% of the votes, and you are somewhere between number 7 or 12. So having said that, kaya sabi ko, hindi talaga kailangan ng DDS vote, to be honest. Mindanao vote, yes, but not DDS vote. Marami sa Mindanao ay not necessarily DDS vote. Kaya nga 15% na lang yung base of support nila based on the Octa survey. So don't give me this don't give me this kind of a questionable proxy like, oh, but 2022, no. We're talking about the only reasonable survey or data we have about who is solidly pro-Duterte, pro-Marcos, and whatever, that's the Octa survey. And they're 15% lang solidly DDS. That's the only available authoritative data we have. If you don't have anything counter to that, ano ka na lang, just cope with it. Alright? Maraming salamat, God bless, and talk to you soon.